Many thanks for your company once again. Tonight, the minority says it will not be part of any budget that will impoverish Ghanaians. The NDC MPs wants government to cut down on expenditure less than 24 hours before the presentation of the 2022 budget and economic policy of government. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is scheduled to appear before the House tomorrow for that presentation. And of course, we're bringing you extensive coverage on that. But even before that happens, there's some disagreement over the justification of whether there's the need for the induction or introduction of new taxes. Whilst the minority is cautioning against these new taxes, the majority believe any measure adopted by the government in ensuring the recovery of the economy from the ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic is justifiable. Some of the MPs have been sharing their expectations ahead of tomorrow's budget.
Are tight. Ghanaians are complaining. The cost of living is very, very high, given the fact that the rate of inflation is 10.6%, and we are witnessing an average increment in salaries at about 4%, and also the high cost of living, both with food inflation and non-food inflation, especially petroleum products, which has a cascading effect on the general cost of living. I expect that the minister would come up with some mitigating measures, especially cost-cutting measures in some sectors that he can accommodate. When things are tough, when the economy is tough, what you do is to cushion people. I've heard the issue of COVID. It's true that COVID might have an impact, but Ghana is not an island. We have examples in Senegal, in Tanzania, in Kenya, in Ethiopia. They are our contemporaries. Even Cote d'Ivoire, they are not coming out with such astronomical tax measures. Because tax increments can also be a disincentive towards productivity.
But we need to maximize revenue.
Yes, you need to maximize revenue.
Because of COVID, businesses are struggling.
Already revenue is being maximized. The GRA has indicated that they are meeting their targets. Petroleum products alone, we are making a windfall of about 600 million. Cocoa production has gone beyond 1 billion. And so when it comes to the revenue measures, I am convinced that we are meeting the revenue targets. We're with GRA at Imprayaso.
Okay. Well, I'm affected by the fuel prices. As a member of parliament, I'm not giving fuel. Every week I bought about 900 cedis fuel to my constituency over the weekend. But of course, you should know that pricing of fuel is not the reserve of government. Government does not price fuel. And this is something that governments have always drummed. I mean, that they do not engage in the pricing of fuel. Of course, there are certain taxes on fuel that helps the nation. Today, we want to raise the revenue to support the people of Keita in putting up a sea defense mechanism there. We want to raise revenue to promote entrepreneurship in our country. We want to raise revenue to construct road. We cannot raise the revenue when we don't have areas where we will rake in the money. I mean,
so it is justifiable to introduce taxes. Is that what it is?
So I'm not saying it's justifiable to introduce taxes, but for me, I would brace myself up if there's an introduction of a tax, which will come to ensure that the development that everybody sees, the development in education, the development in healthcare, the development in promoting tourism, the effect, especially in our social lives, I would gladly, I would accept it.
I'm just giving you just examples of areas that government can take a second look at and find a way of dealing with them properly.
So any form of tax increases, adjustment upward, will not be justified.
I believe that if the NPP itself goes to the subsidiary and the subsidiary says that the only way they can survive is to increase taxes and they go ahead to increase it, it means that they simply do not know what they are doing.
I expect a continuation of the programs that are being rolled out in the 2021 budget. Because clearly, post-pandemic, the finance minister indicated a 3-4 year plan under the Ghana Cares program that is intended to revive the economy and to stimulate the economy and to put us on the path of growth, with fiscal consolidation being a critical part of the agenda. And so my expectation is that it will give us an update of where it is that we are, our revenue measures that have been put in place to, as it were, formalize the economy and bring a lot more people into the tax net, and also what measures that the rolling out to ensure that we come back within the fiscal deficit space of 5%. And that would be my expectation. I'll be satisfied with what it is that the finance minister puts out tomorrow, because I'm extremely confident in his abilities.
And I can bet my last penny that majority of the people of this country expect nothing positive from this budget. What they expect is a rehash of what we have experienced in the previous budgets presented. One thing I can bet my last penny is that they won't talk about corruption. And I say this because of the evidences available. Every single paragraph of the 2017 budget had something to talk about corruption. Juxtapose that with the 2018 budget, 2019. As the years gone by, the budget on corruption started diminishing. The last financial statement barely talked about corruption. The people of this country are going to be told about free SHS. The people of this country are going to be told how they have managed to stabilize the economy. The people of this country are going to be told that gargantuan lie of the jobs they have created without a scintilla of evidence of those jobs available. The Minister for Agric, who had just descended from Jupiter. So there isn't any hope.
Some MPs there sharing their expectations ahead of the budget presentation tomorrow. Well, the Speaker of Parliament has also been sharing his thoughts, and he is warned that the legislature will under no circumstance accept a cut and erratic release of its allocation. According to him, the situation where Parliament literally begs the executive for financial releases will not happen this time, warning any attempt to deny Parliament the required allocation will influence how the House cooperate with consideration of the estimates for the various sectors of the economy.
So you will see that parliamentary oversight therefore seeks to ensure transparency and openness of executive activities, to hold the executive branch accountable, to provide them the financial accountability. And that is an area we are very weak after we pass the laws. In fact, the budget, the evolving best practice usually is now between 2 months, 3 months for Parliament to be able to scrutinize the budget properly and make sure that it is aligned with the national priorities. I look at the geopolitics, how much of the capital budget is going to this part of this region and that kind of thing, how much is going to women, children, the aged, how much, all those things. Is the duty of Parliament to go into these things before approval. Where is the manpower? Where is the time? The budget is to be presented with some of us intervention because they wanted to present it today. And I said, no, it was too late in the day. The indication we had was 17th, and so we planned this forum. There was no way I could postpone this forum. And so I insisted. But that is going to breach one of our laws. And I said, I take responsibility. We need to do this forum. We need to also do the budget on the 17th. But we have to pass the budget before we go on the Christmas recess. So we definitely have about just 1 month. How do you go through all that? And so you make some assumptions. And the lawyers will tell you, omnia praemuntur esse vita acta. You just assume that what is officially mandated to be done is done properly.
Speaker Alban Bagbing there. Well, other labor unions have already started wading into it from the guidelines that we've seen so far for the budget 2020. So one will stay on matters relating to that because the general living conditions in the country is also a matter of concern. We've heard from the Catholic bishops. The latest to wade into it is the Pentecostal and Charismatic Council, and they are demanding that government takes practical and immediate steps to ease the economic hardships facing Ghanaians. And my colleague Kweku Asante will be with me in the studio on budget-related issues because he has a lot. But we'll start with the Pentecostal Council statement that they've issued. Kweku, walk us through it.
Right, MFA. So just like you said, this statement is following in the footsteps of the Catholic Bishops' Conference statement talking about hardships in the country. So let's go through this statement from the Pentecostal and Charismatic Council. It says that this statement is calling on government to take practical and immediate steps to ease the economic hardships currently facing many Ghanaians, especially the teeming unemployed youth. the council is particularly worried about the rippling effects of the recent rampant fuel prices increases, which has affected the price of food items in the market and threatening the very survival of many families and small businesses. They continue that the recent mass recruitment exercises into the various security agencies is a pointer and an early warning signal that all is not well with the situation of our energetic youth, whose economic woes are being worsened by the ongoing economic hardships. And so this is the statement from this group. They are saying that the hardship in the country does not seem to be stopping, and they want government to take some steps in this budget to resolve these differences.
Okay, well, so you stay with me. Like I said, Kweku would go through the budget guidelines that we've received so far, what we've cited in terms of the budgetary statement. Of course, we know that the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, will tomorrow request Parliament to approve a budget estimate of what, up to 120 billion cedis for government spending in the 2022 fiscal year. And that's according to our sources. So, Kweku,
right.
I see that you have it broken down nicely. Let's go through them.
So we've been taking a hard look at the budget guidelines that the ministry is going to use to present tomorrow's budget. So the budget is going to be on 4 main themes. The first is digitalization. We know this government has been big on that. 2 weeks ago, the Vice President held a lecture on that. Industrialization, to create jobs. Competitive import substitution, to be able to make sure that you are consuming what you're producing here. And then export expansion and the creation of decent jobs, particularly for the youth. So these 4 themes are interlinked, and that is what the minister will be presenting to Parliament.
Okay.
And so when you continue, you look at the projected revenues in terms of the expenditure also. So government is expecting to raise 128.3 billion.
Okay.
And this is why some say some taxes may be increased, because if you look from last year, the expected revenue, there's a jump, and we'll get it into in this slide. But the projected expenditure is 128.3 billion. The revenue we are going to raise is 89.1 billion. That means there's a shortfall of 39.2 billion.
Wow.
That must be fought some way, either through loans or through some increment in some taxes. And so we will see what the finance minister will have. But 39.2 billion in deficit, that's very huge. So if you continue, you will realize that the expenditure for 2021 and 2022, 113.8 billion is what we wanted to raise this year.
Okay.
And then for the 2022 financial year, we are trying to raise 128.3 billion. That is about a major increase in terms of the revenue we want to raise for this year.
Okay.
Right.
And then now,
and in terms of revenue, 72.5 billion we projected to spend this year. And then for the next year, we are expecting to spend 89.1 billion Ghana.
Generate that kind of revenue,
right.
Which is 89.1.
Right.
Okay.
And the conversations have always been about if the country is able to raise this much revenue to be able to look in terms of the expenditure. And then you look at interest payments. And there's been a lot of conversation about the Ghana and in terms of our borrowing also. So we are going to use 37.1 billion of all the monies we will raise.
Just for interest?
To pay interest.
Okay.
Not even the main loans that we have contracted. And we are going to use 35.9 billion Ghana cedis to also pay compensation of employees who are on government payrolls. We know the finance minister has been saying that the payroll is full, and so they cannot put more people on it. We are using 35.9 billion of the amount, that is 28.9 of total expenditure to pay compensation of employees, whilst we are using 27.9 billion of total expenditure to pay interest. That's very huge. But if you go to this next slide, you see that the projected amount to be spent on interest payments and compensation alone will represent about 91% of what government is seeking to raise as revenue.
Okay.
So all the revenue you're going to raise, we're going to use 91%. 91% to pay for interest as well as compensation. 91%, that leaves us a space of about 9%. You have capital expenditure and you have other things that you want to do. And so these are very huge numbers. And tomorrow the finance minister is going to present all these. We are going to see how the lowdown is going to be, and much conversation will follow from the MFI.
Thank you very much, Kweku Asante. And of course, we are bringing you extensive coverage of everything that you need to know when it comes to the budget 2022. And we're live from Parliament all the way to the presentation. And then we'll follow with all the analysis, everything that you need to know when it comes to the 2022 budget. And as Kweku puts it, this is where we are.